Hello everyone, I'm back with another video. Uh, I'm busy as heck this week, so I'll probably be quite a short one. But I wanted to keep pumping out some videos. This one's a cute little one. I was like an obsessive team builder. I like I like exploring like every possible option to the nth degree. Sometimes, maybe to my own detriment as a player, but I think mostly as a plus. And one of those moves that you really never, ever, ever see in competitive Pokemon, like ever, but does do something unique, is Mud Sport, as well as Water Sport, which we'll discuss briefly as well at the end. Um, and I've always been like, Mud Sport, Water Sport, they might not be the worst things in the world on the right Pokemon. And I do think in OU there's absolutely no good users of it. Although there are ideas of baton passing Mud Sport and Water Sport, which is funny. You can do that with Minun, I think, or Plusle. Maybe one can do a different sport. I can't remember. It's not. it's a little bit beyond what's important for me to remember exactly which Pikachu clone knows which sport. But let's get into like what it does, why it's not used, how you can actually use it. I'll present a team with it in ADV50 and discuss like how I came up with it. We'll look at some calcs as to show like why it's actually kind of worthwhile in that like very specific situation, and then I'll talk a little bit more about other potential users. So, Mud Sport weakens the power of electric type moves, and Water Sport weakens the power of fire type moves. So it cuts the power of those moves in half. The duration is as long as your Pokemon using it stays in, and the effect of it also carries through to critical hits, which is actually like maybe the coolest thing about it. So it's like as if when a water type's being hit by an electric type, it suddenly becomes water and grass type. It's kind of like that effect. That's how I have to imitate it in the calc anyway. There's not a Mud Sport or Water Sport option because no one ever uses these moves ever. Foresight is on there. People must use Foresight more than Mud Sport. Anyway, but yeah, it weakens the power even of critical hit electric or fire type moves. And Mud Sport is on some water types. As you can see from the picture, there's a Golduck pictured. If any of you have any experience playing ADV50, which I know some of you will, some of you won't, there's a whole playlist of videos on it, as well as a link to the Discord in the description if you are curious about ADV50. But Golduck is one of the best Pokemon in ADV50. It's a really good store breaker. It's pretty quick, good typing, good power. It's a cool Pokemon. And Mud Sport is one of like the very niche moves that you can try out on it. So let's go to the team. So the idea of Mud Sport Golduck is that Golduck's best answer, most reliable single answer, is Lantern, which will like eat anything Golduck throws at it unless you literally get to +6. In which case you can kind of damage it. And that it retaliates with powerful Thunderbolts. So even like a Hypnosis Calm Mind variant still struggles to break through Lantern before Lantern breaks through it. If Lantern just like sits, waits out the sleep turns, and then Thunder Waves or Thunderbolts or whatever. So this is like an option to get through Lantern somewhat effectively and reliably. I mean, the idea is you Calm Mind up, you get a Mud Sport off, and then suddenly the Thunderbolts are bouncing off, and you aren't at risk of being OHKO'd by a crit, which we'll see in the calc. Maybe we should quickly take a look at that calc. So yeah, here's the kind of damage that a critical hit is doing. Typically to a max HP Golduck with, this is a fairly typical Lantern. You can run more special attack on it, you can run less, but this is at least like the sample spread for Lantern in ADV 50. So it's 69 to 82 on a critical hit. Obviously it's a lot of damage, but it's less than 100%. which is what it's normally like. So if we let's suppose that we use one Calm Mind and we use Mudsport, which we can imitate now with the light screen, and that Thunderbolt isn't a critical hit. It's doing 24 to 28, and then you're able to keep boosting. So a crit plus a non-crit T-Bolt might KO you at +1, and that's like about as bad as it can get. If you don't get crit in the first two moves, or if you don't get double crit, you can pretty much sit up on Lantern. Let's look at the damage that Golduck does at +6, just to demonstrate that it does do enough to break a rest Lantern. Yeah, that's 2-hit KOing. Even a more specially defensive variant will still be 3-hit KO'd comfortably. So yeah, that's like the idea. Is good against this one specific Pokemon, but we're talking about the best Pokemon, well, one of the best 5 Pokemon in the tier, using it to handle its single best answer that has a bit over 20% usage. I mean, it obviously varies tournament to tournament and so on and so forth, person to person. But based on historically the tournaments that we had, it was in around the 20 to 30% range most typically. So if we go back to the team, like that, there we go. Then like, well, how did I build around this set? It's like I had the idea of pairing it with Calm Mind Clefable. So Calm Mind Clefable struggles with Lantern because Lantern is one of 2 Pokemon to resist Bolt Beam, the other one being Magneton. And Clefable runs Bolt Beam. And Lantern, and to be honest, sometimes Magneton as well, but Lantern's more common, often run Toxic as well. So they're really reliable answers to Clefable. Calm Mind Clefable. So the concept is basically a matchup splitting concept. It's Golduck will be good if Lantern appears. If Lantern doesn't appear, then Calm Mind Clefable could be more of a threat. To a lesser extent, also Magneton. Magneton's a bit of a weird matchup for the team, it has to be said. And then it's just paired with Spikes, because Spikes are good, and why not? Heal Bell, because they're using a Calm Mind Dress Golduck. Explosion Torkoal, because it can lure Pokemon like Altaria, Altaria, Mantine, Muck, quite a few different Golduck answers and Clefable answers, so it just provides good synergy. And then Aggron is just like another piece of glue as well. It puts some pressure on Whiscash, which is welcome for Clefable. Not like super necessary, but it's nice. And yeah, overall that's the idea of this team. It's quite a slow team without paralysis, so that's definitely a challenge. But Clefable, Torkoal, Aggron, it's very bulky stuff. Golduck's obviously quite bulky as well, but Laporte speed can definitely be a downside, but this is my best attempt at a Mudsport Golduck team. Now, it has to be said, most of the time this is not the right Golduck for your team. Most of the time you want Calm Mind Hypnosis, or you want Sub-Calm Mind, or something else. But if you really want to use Mudsport, this is how I'd use it. To match up split with Lantern, to take advantage of that hyper-specific advantage, and build a team that's otherwise generally pretty solid, and supports the Golduck so it can do its thing. Yeah, that's the idea. So finally, I just want to talk a little bit about the move distribution, because they were very funny with this. The they decided that Mud Sport would mostly go to ground types, and Water Sport would mostly go to water types. Now, ground types are immune to electric type attacks. When they use Mud Sport, it does literally nothing. Water types are resistant to fire type attacks. Using Water Sport doesn't do nothing, but it patches up a weakness that doesn't exist. So it's also pretty shockingly bad. Obviously, like, thematically, it makes sense from a flavor perspective for these Pokemon to get this move. It still sucks. And if you played in game and seen like Mud Sport, Water Sport, Plusle, and like those other things in Gen 3, you'll be familiar with the move and be thinking like, wow, this move is so bad. Why did they this? Why is this move there? Why did they do this? But Mud Sport is on some water types that aren't part ground. So let's go through this. Remember, we're only looking at Gen 3. Golem ground type, useless. Mudkip is a water type, I guess. Its evolutions are ground types, but maybe in some tier where Mudkip is a decent Pokemon. Oh god. I'm sure somebody will create a lower tier at some point where Mudkip is actually decent, so hey, maybe. It's electric weak, maybe, but it also doesn't have that many boosting moves. I mean, you could maybe do like Curse, Mud Sport, some kind of attack and rest, and that might not be terrible in some very specific tier situation. It's not very good. Lanoon, not immune to electric type moves, but it's also like a fast, frail Pokemon that isn't weak to electric anyway, so pointless. Still, Whiscash, immune to electric. The Anorith, Armado line, they are not exactly weak to electric either. It's got better things to be doing. Relicanth, hey, maybe. It does boost with Calm Mind, but Calm Mind Relicanth is hot garbage. And yeah, it's still not a great user. Shellos, those are Gen 4 Pokemon. Those are the learn set ones, and then Squirtle, so like the Blastoise line. Now I think that personally Mud Sport is best on a Pokemon that can boost in other ways as well. I run boosting move, Mud Sport, rest, mono attacking type. So to be honest, given there's two weaknesses, two types, electric is super effective on water and flying. Water is a good. They're honestly both good mono attacking types, but it's like Mud Sport Calm Mind is really the way to go, I think, because with Mud Sport, no Calm Mind, the electric attacks are still going to sting. So and flying type moves aren't boosted by Calm Mind in Gen 3, so it's kind of a wash. So really, we're talking about water types that can boost, running Calm Mind, Mud Sport, Surf, Rest. Slowpoke, to be fair, gets Calm Mind, Mud Sport, Surf, Rest. So maybe the Slowking, Slowbro line could use it, but they're really slow, and the ability to get a Calm Mind and a Mud Sport before the opponent is really nice, and it also has better things to be doing, but theoretically could be usable. The Goldeen line doesn't learn Calm Mind. Totodile doesn't learn Calm Mind. Mantine doesn't learn Calm Mind, but it is 4 times weak to Mud Sport, so kind of 4 times weak to electric. So it's like kind of interesting. Well, basically makes it only 2 times weak, and it's got massive Spadef, but like, yeah, even so, extremely situational. I mean, Stantler gets Calm Mind, Mud Sport, Rest, but it also isn't water type. Trico resists electric. Corphish, no Calm Mind. Milotic, no Calm Mind. Clampower and its evolutions, no Calm Mind, although it's kind of cute on a Rain Dance set, maybe, because it does boost your special attack and speed at the same time. But it's something. Love Disc, no Calm Mind. We're out of Gen 3. What is a special move? Okay, anyway. And then event Pokemon. Here we have Golduck. Does learn Calm Mind, Surf, Mud Sport, Rest. Corsola. I think Corsola learns Calm Mind, so maybe in another tier as well. Calm Mind, Mud Sport, Surf, Rest. Surskit is interesting. Does it learn Calm Mind? I don't think so. And then Minun. So, yeah. I'd also note if you're not a pure water type using Mud Sport, then there's also the issue of you have other weaknesses. So pure water types are only weak to grass and electric, and Mud Sport effectively makes them only weak to grass, which is not the most common attacking type. There's a lot of different forms of counterplay against it, a lot of different Pokemon that resist it. So it's generally not the biggest weakness to worry about, and you're cutting the number of weaknesses in half. So Mud Sport on a pure water type with Calm Mind, Rest, that's something. So like with the Slowking on earlier as well, or with Corsola, they have extra weaknesses like Ground for Corsola fighting. The Slow Twins have a Bug weakness, a Ghost weakness as well, Dark weakness. So it's less impressive on Pokemon with more weaknesses as well. And then shall we see how bad water sports distribution is? So we're just going to see if there's any Pokemon here that even are weak to fire. So Golduck line, resist fire. Goldeen line, resist fire. Lombre, neutral to fire, still doesn't really need to resist fire. Pelipper resists fire. Surskit and Masquerain. Actually, Masquerain, kind of interesting. If it got like Calm Mind or something, though. I don't know, Bug and Flying has so many weaknesses. The fire weakness is kind of like the least of his worries, and Masquerain has like a lot of weird, unique traits. I kind of love it, but it's also water sport's not going to make it suddenly better. Barboach and Whiscash resists fire. Milotic resists fire. Gorobus resists fire. Latias gets it, and it still resists fire. And let's go down here by breeding. Poliwag and Poliwag, Politoed, Poliwrath resist fire. Totodile resists fire. Wingull resists fire. Spheal resists fire with thick fat, otherwise neutral to fire. Relicanth quad resists fire. Imagine finding a useful water sport Relicanth, just truly wanting to screw over a fire type that badly. Love Disc also resists fire. Plusle, neutral to fire, not a very bulky Pokemon. Corphish resists fire. And that's it. So, if there's ever going to be a good use of water sport, maybe somebody can do something somewhere with Masquerain. Is it Masquerain or Masquerain? I don't know. I always say Masquerain. I'm probably wrong. I've just realized I might be wrong. Anyway, so yeah, that's a whole exciting video on Mud Sport. How did I talk about Mud Sport and Water Sport for 20 freaking minutes? I hope you enjoyed it. Try out the team below. Check out the ADV50 playlist. Join the ADV50 Discord. Keep exploring team building concepts, ideas. Keep pushing boundaries. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.